Good day, people of the YouTubes. I'm actually going to do something on this channel for a change. So hello and welcome to the first episode of Strategy Time. This is going to be pretty much my thoughts and interpretations on how to play this game. And it's going to semi-interactive, based on my own assumptions, and not at all based on facts most of the time. What I mean is, these are things that I have learned within the games, and things that I have found useful, as opposed to what theory crafting and what mathematics and what looking at game code will tell you is actually the truth. These are my interpretations on this, and to make of them what you will, discuss them below. That is what this channel is going to be about. So, I am Mark Shadowhawk Rebelly, and let's play Endless Space Disharmony, with the most difficult part of this, I think, for new players to get, is building a good empire. And I'm going to go into later on how to build a harmony race, because I've been struggling with this myself, building a harmony race that I like. But we'll go on to the others firstly. So before we go much further, let's add a new one and go through the empire affinities, because this is basically the racial ability. And it pretty much defines how you are supposed to play this race. United Empire. A higher tax rate gives you a production bonus, which is a bit counterintuitive, but it means that when you are making lots and lots of money, you will also be able to make a lot of things to make even more money. Basically, you want, if you have a United Empire affinity, to build, and have as many building bonuses as you can. Money bonuses as well would be useful. The only downside you're going to have with this is that having a high tax rate will lower population growth, and also will be slightly impacting your science. And finding a balance with United Empire, you will want to adjust your tax rate, or at least check your tax rate every other turn. Normally, I would say in this game, you want to be checking your tax rate at least every 3 or 4 turns for the optimal level. United Empire, it's even more important because it has a direct effect on how fast you can build things, especially if you're in a war-like situation. It's a very aggressive empire, played properly, United Empire. Cravers. Yeah, Cravers. I'm not overly a fan, but basically they're good at setting up worlds. You have to move on and get more, though. This is another empire guided towards war. You play Cravers, you play it as a war race. Amoebas are one of my favourites. They have less... I should really get rid of that effect. Okay, you go away. Amoebas are probably one of the better ones to start with. What you'll find with the Amoebas is you can see everything of note on the board from the start. You know exactly where the enemies are, you know where the colonizable planets are, and you can get to them first. You still have to explore the areas to get the star bonuses, but just knowing where everything is, not making bad moves at the start, it can help you establish yourselves. But there is a penalty for it. Taking the amoeba affinity... Oh, it doesn't actually in Disharmony. Hooray! My factual lessons about this game are already going away. Right, the Sophons. The Sophons are similar to the United Empire, but only for lower tax rates. And basically, it's a science production boost. It's useful, certainly, but I wouldn't call it one of the more powerful abilities. One of the most powerful abilities, and the one which I have used massively to effect in both my Let's Plays, is the Pilgrims. I think the Pilgrim's ability is by far and away the most deadly used correctly. It won't do a lot late game. United Empire, if they can expand as quickly as the Pilgrims, difficult but doable, will have better mid to late game because of their production boost. The Pilgrims, though, yeah, as long as you are careful with your world ships, and you do have to be careful, you can basically take your homeworld from whatever starting system you want, even taking a potential penalty. I have, in the past, gone... I'll be discussing the anomalies in a bit, but gone Hellgords with this race, because you can fix that with legendary heroes, taking the happiness boost in about level 4 or 5. Use the massive food boost and just leave that world continually. It's only -2. It was worth more because there's now quite a lot of ways you can abuse it. But yeah, being able to dump your homeworld with everything it's built onto the best system in the game, which basically means you can go right up to an enemy empire and dump your homeworld there effectively with all of its production bonuses, and then suddenly, instead of dealing with a border colony which they've got to establish, they're dealing with a fully set up world. And with the other bonus trick you catch on, if you're carrying 6 population points in a world ship and colonize a world which only has 3, they spill over into the other ones, giving you multiple colonized worlds instantly. Dear God, the Pilgrims are overpowered, and I love it. The Horatio Affinity allows you to clone heroes at their current level. Actually, this is an ability I like, and if you have... I think this one, again, sort of builds towards the more military-style ones, because you want to copy your fleet commanders once you're in a protracted war, and as long as they don't die. This is the only empire, I would say, that you do not want to take, well, there might be others, but you want to take the hero bonuses for healing and dust impaired. You want their abilities to be cheap, because you'll want a lot of heroes. You want a lot of good heroes, and being able to copy your legendary commander is phenomenally good. Yeah, I mean, the fleet, what can you get in terms of a fleet commander? I mean, at ridiculous levels, it almost triples a fleet's power. Plus, it gets all of the other abilities on it as well. If you've got plenty of dust, that's more attack power. The Sower Affinity. Basically, half food, but you use your production for food. I think the balance is correct, but I'm not overly a fan of the Sower Affinity. There are ways of making it work. I mean, there's plenty of... Master of Orion 2, you can do the half cybernetic, which sort of does the same thing. And you don't lose the production, by the way. That's the only thing. So if you do... I think later game, it's probably more useful than it is early game. It might actually hinder you early game. It depends, but you're going to have to go onto the lava worlds quickly. Lava worlds you can colonize quite easily with Sowers. The Battle Bushido. This is obviously a military one, and you want to optimize your bonuses as well. You also get bonuses for conquest. This is one that pushes you towards victory here. You want to up the weapon damage, you want to up the invasion skills. You need to conquer things, which also depressingly means I think the fits does stack actually. Well, the automatons. Overproduction. So basically this is what happens when you... Because normally what most people will do in a production queue is to go and put the convert to dust or convert to science as the last thing you do. The reason being that any production that spills over will then immediately go into either dust or science. It makes sense, it's what happens. The automatons though go into a sort of overclock. If you overproduce things, you then get an interest rate build-up, and it allows you to sort of speed up your production for a limited time, depending on how much over you've gone. Now, it's not always going to be a benefit to do that, but it's a nice sort of thing where you sort of have systems going on a sort of automated clock of production, cooldown, production, cooldown. I've yet to play it successfully, and it's probably the one I've least tried to play successfully, but it can work reasonably well. The Sheridan Affinity, basically, you will not retreat. The buyout bonus is actually quite useful as well, because it allows you to buy things cheaper, but no retreat whatsoever. Basically gets rid of the one thing I have about blockading systems. The only downside is you do have to make sure you are stronger than the fleet that can't retreat. Doesn't mean, though, that any scout or colony ship that accidentally ends up in your territory is dead. At least early game. Harmony does not use dust. This causes problems. No heroes, no buyouts. But it does have other benefits. I mean, the other Harmony effects that aren't listed there, they're emotionless, so they don't have a plus-minus score for that. There is... what else was there? I can't remember. I've played this very, very recently. But obviously no dust, you can convert the dust later into production and... actually it might be food and science. The other thing they do is they have a sort of tax level which doesn't work on dust because they don't have it. But basically one side gives food, the other side gives science. So working out that, this is another one where you have to adjust the tax rate all the time. You want to go massively on food early until the planets have lots of people, then go all the way onto science again. And finding some relevant balance in the two. So... with that done, let's have a go at creating... well, let's have a quick look at some races which I have built here. So the way I see it, there are 3 general tactics. This is my build called the Merchants of the Dragon. Because of a card game I played a while ago where they did have... I can't remember what it was called. It was a ridiculous card game because it used about 150 card decks from what I remember, and I'm going off topic, I know, there is a point. But anyway, there was an amoeba race there called Dragons, and I used them to good effect. They're effectively living ships in space. I don't know, I'm going to have to try and remember the name of that game. Anyway, so what I've done with this is how we build this one. The basic tactic of this is simple. We want to ally with as many people as possible. We want to know where everybody is, because that allows us to get to the allies quickly, get through wormholes quickly, and then basically try and set up trade routes. You want to be going early towards the diplomacy routes here, building up as much money as possible. Because we are not a war people, I've probably gone a bit too far with this, but anarchists. Now that may seem like a ridiculous thing to do, because that gives us a total fleet at the start of the game of 3 command points. However, all the things on the side you'll be concentrating on, there's a lot of things there which do bump your command points back up, so that can be negated as long as you don't encounter too many war races from the start. I apologise about my phone. Darn it. Some things never change even on a new channel. Businessmen, plus 20% on the system, which is an obvious one. The early dust allows you to get a hero of the start. However, I've not gone for any hero upgrades. Corporate leaders are generally okay, but I think they're better for bumping your science rather than bumping your dust, at least early game. Later game, with the trade routes, trade route bonuses. Yeah. Speaking of which, entrepreneurs is plus 1 dust per person. Yeah, that's just a general nice thing to have always. So adding on a dust load, although I probably should take that off for one of the technologies on that side of things. Maybe soil xenobiology, because that would allow us to get sustainable farms, additional points there. Don't really need to worry about a lot of that else. I could go over some of the weapon tech, but that's fine. Optimistic is a given on this one. I've taken a lot of negative effects, as you can see there. And the sharing integrity means we can't break deals, really. We are stuck and fixed onto that. Feeble warriors and dust impaired heroes with sloppy sawbones, I generally take those 2 automatically unless I'm going with something that relies on the heroes. And most of the science is sort of built to make sure that we can produce fast and we can colonize a couple of worlds, although as I say, I would take dust load off maybe for another science check, possibly. Trying to think on this one. Speed again, very important. You want to trade with everybody, but they also need to pick up the bonuses and get to them as fast as possible. You'll find yourself, depending on the map, trying to dodge enemy planets to get to the people who might actually be willing to trade with you. This does have a slight problem, this build. You will be trying, and this is going to be more of a problem in a multiplayer game as well, I imagine. You'll be trying to keep your score low against an AI, because then they'll be more inclined to trade with you and do all the peaceful deals and get all the additional bonuses that happen here. Trade is... I don't know, I'm looking at some of this now. I can't see anything wrong with the build apart from maybe a couple of the technology side of things. Really, if I was going to adjust this maybe a little more, 30% dust on system I think isn't overly needed. Blockade breakers might be. Strategically resourceful I always consider with amoebas, but I end up saying, nah, you know what, it's actually fine. Because that basically means you can get monopoly bonuses with 3 of the thing instead of 4. It does allow you to trade them though, I suppose, which is something. Luxury bonus potentially, doesn't need efficient stock. I don't know. That's my general amoeba affinity build. for the Merchants of the Dragon, at least on Disharmony. I know it's slightly different on the base game if you're playing that. Next, we have the build which I have been sort of modifying and mastering, which is my mass expansionist pilgrim build. So first and foremost, you speed. Fast travelers, 2 additional points of movement, plus automatic compact fusion reactors. This not only gives us 2 additional planets to colonize, but it gives us a +2 speed boost for having that technology unlocked. That gives you a lot of speed, and you need a lot of speed. Other thing you need are legendary heroes. You need the +20 food boost for a level 3 administrative leader if you can do it. If you don't get that, it's not the end of the world, but you want a corporate leader at that stage, and he will basically then go for the science side of things. But for administrative leader is what you want here. Optimal structure is my usual ship upgrade because it's always going to be useful. More weapons, more guns per command point, more efficiency. It's how I tend to play this. Optimistic again, because the other reason for going optimistic is because you've activated the Arctic worlds for science, the arid worlds for money, and that is the reason I went for that early. I know Tundra worlds would give you production, but I prefer having the money and science sorted. And I can always get the access to the Tundra worlds for their production benefit if needed later. As for downsides, nothing too special here. I've really actually kept with just the... I've still kept, by the way, the negative hero effects. And the reason I've decided that is because, generally speaking, that's 8 points. I don't use a lot of hero abilities anyway, because the only ones you really use are the ones on fleet ships. And if I'm expanding fast enough, I don't need necessarily that as an advantage. Now, I might be wrong with that, there may be a way I can work around that, but at the moment, I consider this. I would say fragile hulls. It's a dangerous thing to have. Very dangerous. And as I think towards the end of my multiplayer video with Dylan actually hurt me because I had fragile hulls on and a lack of ship hit points. But it's generally how I've considered it. It's probably the least damaging of the... where are we? Space battle, isn't it? It's probably the least damaging of those, because humane weapons, 12% is too much. But it is worth 5 points, admittedly. Accuracy you could probably take, but you'll regret it. I'm certain you will regret it if you take an accuracy penalty. Offense first is probably the only thing that might be considered, but I generally figured that having worse defenses versus having worse hit points. I prefer the defenses, because if my defenses are good, it doesn't matter how many hit points I've got. That was my theory there. And this is for Shadow Alliance as I've played through sort of incarnations of it, adjustments. For additional points and upgrades, anarchists would be considered, but only the first point of it. Let's see, what else would we go for? Kitchen chemists, nah, I don't think we need that overly. I would say possibly you could take Hellgords, which is the other thing that you would necessarily consider, but I couldn't find anything worth 2 points, and I didn't need Dust Archaeology. As long as you can counterbalance the negative happiness effect, it'll be fine. But you generally have to have something to balance that out. Maybe I don't know. I don't know actually. I've always been tempted. Also, the other thing is dust recyclers and knowledge gathering. I tend to not bother with those, although I do see their benefit if you're going for a war race. This is not a war race. This is an expansion race. If I built this properly, the Empire of Shadows, if I remember rightly, was... Yeah, loss of red abilities, I know. This is sort of my war race. We have gone for 1 point of builders, so that's 10% industry reduction. I should probably have more than that, but I think there was a reason why I didn't. We go dust recycler, so we take dust off of the enemy. 30% ship cost reduction. Optimistic, because you do it, and a 15% accuracy boost. Possibly a waste. This is the one thing I've considered. I think this might have been a test build rather than a proper one. Fast travelers, for obvious reasons. I've not taken any early tech. Yeah, this is... No, hold on. A point of snipers, sure. But we still want to go with... let's think about this. We need the Tundra worlds for production. So we go... that, and then we go compact fusion reactors for the initial speed boost. That leaves us 2 points. So I can remove... I could remove deep roots. I actually prefer to remove fragile hulls, so... Well, I can always take the money boost for now, but it seems a bit of a waste. I can take Hellgords, which should give me another 4 points, but that's not going to help me out massively. Yeah, if I can actually build up something... Another construction point would be useful here, if I could do that. Now this one, I have gone with both for downgrades on defences. That, I feel, is a mistake, looking at this now. See, alright, I'll lower... yeah. We'll lower that by 1 point. Get the building up to level 2, because that makes a bit more sense there. I can then take the fragile hulls off, and that, I think, is actually a slightly stronger build. We now got a bit more speed behind us. We've got a bit more building production bonuses. This is all about building. You want to build, you want to keep a fleet up, you want to conquer. There's probably better ways of building that, and I'm sure I missed... this still feels slightly wrong to me. It's more wrong than the Pilgrims build, because the Pilgrims build I've sort of mastered, and the Merchants does what it's supposed to do. I might have to work on that a little more. The truth. The truth is I still haven't fully worked this out, but this is the closest build I've got that sort of works. Again, concentrating on building things, efficient stock, which I did take because if we're not having dust, we might as well have the other things. You need to find those resource deposits, though. That's the only downside of this. We don't have heroes, so we don't get my usual dropped things here. The only thing I would say is cloning required, though I wish I'd had a few more levels of it. The only other thing I did consider, actually, with this was going for a tolerant build. Now, because we don't have any negative effects to colonizing planets, the main reason why you don't take tolerance is gone. The problem with it is, though, it is 30 points of downgrades to try and fit in. And really, I think if I took efficient stock off, maybe. But I might be regretting that one. I can then take... What can I take for 5 points? Slow Travelers I never take. I could go back to my whole fragile hulls thing. Yeah, I think that's the main reason why I didn't like it, because I don't have optimal structure on my war race. I might try and build a war race just to end off the video here. Humane weapons, offense first, I think we just take there, because that will get me up 2 points there. I'm not sure I can do anything with 2 points, but we'll have a look. Not in this build, in any case. No, is there anything I can get rid of? I can get rid of deep roots, actually. It's not really... I don't overly... I tend to take that in any case, because if I'm defending, I'm normally in trouble anyway. But that's probably fine. I think this might actually be a stronger build. So, because I can go straight for the useful worlds. I don't have to worry then about things there. I've got cloning, so I at least have some food on certain ones of those worlds. I have speed to get there. I have taken 2 points of anarchists. It's a weakness, but it's probably the most useful thing that isn't Eternal War. You have got to play this very carefully here, because you are not going to be able to buy your way out of trouble. That's why you need the option to be peaceful. Well, I'll go with that. So, right, one last attempt then. Let's try and build a war race, and I'm going to build it out of the Horatio race, and we do want to look like them, because otherwise I won't know who we're talking about. So Horatio is about cloning heroes. So let's actually just cut everything from there. So, usual thing when starting this, always go with... What's that actually Horatio's homeworld? I forget which one that is their homeworld, but we're going to go with production and speed. So there's production science sorted out there. Next up, we're going to take our hero upgrades this time, really. We want legendary heroes, 2 lots of them. Because we're taking legendary heroes, we need Dust Archaeology at least 1 level of, so we can buy it. Right. Now we're going to consider how we're going to play the rest of this then. We can go for Fragile Hulls for 3 points. We can go for... Optimal Structure I love above all else in regards to this. Take a point of Optimistic. We're going to regret not taking 2 points of that, but I might be able to recover that a little later. Going to take a luxury penalty for 9-7, and we're going to take a... No, not Black Thumbs. Don't want that, really. I might take the offense first as well here. Alright, so that buys me 19 more points. So with the 19 more points, we can now consider other things here. So, Dust Leech. Seems to be some minor issues with this. Power Master, so ability costs go down. Difficult one, this one. We always have Feeble Warriors as an option, and I tend to take these two if low on points towards the end, rather than thinking about it now. We'll take Fast Travellers, but just the 1 point for now. 14 points. Let's go with... I can go for another 10 points for Optimal Structure. That gives us 30% additional tonnage. So we start basically automatically with a boost on weapons stats. Take Eternal War. This is a war race. We're gonna play it like that. So in terms of space battle, I think that what we're going to do here is overclock the weapon damage slightly. And then we're going to take the... no, not the allied one. Well, I'll take the knowledge one, 1 point of. So we get some research for killing other ships. And research is useful because it allows us to get some more later. Rebellion, Stellar Guardians would allow us to do influence area. Now, influence is quite useful for defense, but if you're at war, it doesn't really matter for that. See if I can just sort that out. So that's 13 points if we do that. But I might just leave it there. Alright, 11 points then. So, Mineral Rich is probably a reasonable one to think about. Terraform adds a random positive anomaly. I don't like picking random. There might be a reason for it, but I don't like it. I like to know what I'm getting myself into, really. Snipers could be useful for 7. Yeah, I think actually militarist, being able to build ships faster, I should consider that a little earlier actually. Leaves us 3 points so I can get rid of fragile hulls, and there we are. Right, this is my race, basically designed around trying to clone people. I ended up not going for the hero ability downgrades. But that seems like a fairly reasonable thing to have. I might be missing out on the optimistic side of things, maybe a little. But I think, given how expensive that is, there's another 10 points there. I'd prefer the optimal structure. I'd prefer the deadly weapons. It might be more difficult to make this work, to be honest. So, the clone army of shadows. Well, this is strategy time, and that was Endless... Clone army of Shadowhawks. Everybody fears that, surely. Right, so this was Endless Space. Next video, we'll probably have a discussion about how to start the game properly. So, well, what I mean by starting the game properly, I mean by optimizing early routes when you know what's going on and when you don't know what's going on, and if you are a war race. So, until then.